Falls City Council, Lincoln County Commission meeting. It is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, and it is 7 p.m. I would like to, first of all, call this meeting to order and state that there is a quorum of county commissioners present.
Yes, could we get a roll for the city council, please?
Councilor Thomason?
We gotta say the pledge.
Lorenzo? Cole? McCurs?
Here.
Siggety?
Here.
Sale?
Here.
Spellberg?
Yes. Here, sorry. I was reading. We have a quorum.
Thank you. There is a quorum present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Trick me out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Schmidt, second by Aaron's, correct?
Yes.
Is there any discussion? Alicia, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried.
From the council, is there a motion to approve?
So move Thomason.
Second call.
Been moved by Thomason, second by Cole. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilor Thomason,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
McCurs,
Yes.
Siggety,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Spellberg,
Yes. The motion's approved 6-0.
Next, Alicia, will you please read the ordinance and resolution, the informational items from public hearings for tonight?
Public hearing for an appeal on a decision by the Lincoln County Planning Commission and the City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission to approve conditional use permit number use 0050-2024 to allow a stable on the property described as north half, northeast quarter, except lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Hanson Family Foundation Addition, Section 19, T100N, R49W, Springdale Township. The Lincoln County Planning Commission and the City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission both approved the application unanimously. Private applicants Troy Little, Hanson Family Foundation for the Well-Being of God's Creatures. This is an appeal of a conditional use permit for a stable in the Lincoln County Joint Jurisdiction area located south of East 85th Street and west of South Sycamore Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toby Brown, representing County Planning. As was noted, the item before you this evening is an appeal of a decision by both planning commissions to approve a conditional use permit for a stable on the subject property. As you can see, this was passed by both planning commissions with 8 conditions that were attached to the approval. This subject property is approximately 2,600 feet to the south of the City of Sioux Falls corporate limits. As noted, it's generally at the intersection of 270th Street or 85th Street and Sycamore Avenue. Subject property is zoned A1 agricultural, as is all surrounding properties. As noted, this was generally an 80-acre piece that was purchased by the Hanson family. With an 80 acres, they did have the 2 building eligibility rights. They exercised those. Staff has issued building permits for 2 single-family dwellings that's noted in the highlighted portion of the property. Each of those is approximately 2 acres in size. Those single-family dwellings are currently under construction. The Hanson families will be living in those 2 single-family dwellings. This looking to the west, the 2 pictures or the 4 pictures are on the screen. The one looking to the west would be just to the south of this tree grove there. So the applicants did submit a concept plan with the application. What they're proposing is to construct a 9,000 square foot riding arena and a 3,000 square foot stable on the property. The purpose of this facility would be a sanctuary for sick and abused or elderly horses on the property. As noted in the staff analysis and the discussions that staff has had with the applicant, intentions are not to have more than 15 horses. Generally, it'd be probably a dozen horses on the subject property. This is allowable through a conditional use permit under the joint zoning regulations. There is no real performance standards for this use, so staff did put some conditions on the application. As was noted, this area is generally an agricultural area. The nearest dwelling not associated with the Hansons would be about 2,600 feet to the south of this property. The Hansons' dwellings would be the closest dwellings to this property. There is no zoned rural residential or commercial industrial property within the vicinity either. This is generally an agricultural area, crop area. So as noted, the Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing on this application. There was no public comment at that time with the application. The Planning Commission did answer or did request some questions of staff at that meeting. Primarily what would be utilized for, as noted, one of the conditions was that there's no connection to rural water service. This area is a Tier 3 growth area for the city of Sioux Falls. So anticipated that city services would be available in 16 to 25 years. City is exercising their jurisdiction over water rights for this particular property to not allow a connection to rural water. The Hansons have drilled a well for the single-family dwellings and will utilize that same well for the proposed stable on the property. After the agenda was published, staff did receive 2 letters. I did post those in front of you this evening. They're also posted in the agenda packet. One of those letters would be from legal counsel of the Hansons, and the applicant will address some of those items in there. The other one was from the township. The township will not be in attendance tonight, but they noted concerns over their roadway that would be going through there. To my understanding is that there has been issued a driveway access permit to the south of the property, which was noted in the site plan. That would be bordering the guard's property. So after, per the ordinance, there can be an appeal filed with our office within 5 days of approval. The property owners to the south, the guards, did file an appeal within that time frame. I have had some discussions, the guards are here this evening, but staff has had discussions with the guards about some of their concerns. Some of those were addressed through the updated letter from the Hanson's attorney, as well as the applicant, or will present some of those concerns too. So the applicant for this item is Troy Little. Troy Little is a consultant, he's an engineer for the Hansons, but the Hansons are here as well to answer any questions that you might have for them as well too. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll pass it back to you, and I'll gladly answer any questions that you have for staff at this time. Otherwise, the applicant is in attendance this evening.
At this time, are there any questions for Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Toby, couple things I'd like to get clarification on before we dive into the testimony tonight. First of all, this one of the conditions that was proposed by the joint planning commissions was the connection to a rural water service is not permitted. Could you explain both to the commission and the council here tonight and to the public this whole issue of why, what's going on with rural water service out there and why that condition was probably put in there?
Sure. So one of the things that we're trying to do with city staff is to work with them on their recommendation with the application. So staff did review city staff did review the application as noted in the staff report. This subject property, again, is within the water service area of Sioux Falls. That was established through some litigation between the rural water system and the city of Sioux Falls. The city of Sioux Falls is exercising their right to not allow service other than the city service there on that property. So they did exercise that. And one of the things that county staff discussed with city staff is enforcement of that. To how do we prevent 5-10 years from them doing that? So really the jurisdiction would be the conditions of that permit. And so staff felt that that was appropriate, that then we would be able to enforce that provision down the road through that. But again, as I mentioned previously, the Hansons have exercised, they've drilled a well and utilizing that for the proposed dwellings, and then also that will be sufficient for this proposed facility as well.
Thank you, Toby. And then just the next question I have here, and this may have actually been answered already, but I read something in Mark Shesher's email about this. Shesher's email says he was told the site includes an event center with 40 parking spaces. I don't know if that's true or not, and hopefully the testimony clears that up. But then I saw in the conditions here, it says the stable shall not host any events. Could you just kind of state why the site owner, as part of a conditional use permit, won't be able to hold any events that are not in relation to the stable?
Sure. So the Hansons have been working with city and county staff for well over a year on this property. They originally proposed a vision with a veterinary clinic, a kennel, and then also some events. I think staff was concerned that the events would go beyond what would be typically within a stable type facility. So that was the addition of the condition, that it would only be events that were related to the maintenance, boarding, breeding of horses. So we did limit that. We did, discuss that with the applicant, and there was no concern from the applicant with that condition.
Thank you, Toby.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was the objection of the township given to the planning commission before they met, or is this objection received after the planning commission?
After the planning commission met on this item, yes. This application, yes.
Any other questions? Toby, did you say the applicant was here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would he like to speak at this time?
No.
No. Okay. Please state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Troy Little. I'm with Wilson Lawn Engineering in Sioux Falls. The only thing,
Try to raise your microphone, please, so those that
better?
might be listening. Okay, thank you.
no problem. The only thing I really want to address would be the drainage. That was a question. We did a drainage calculation between the existing crop ground and the proposed pasture ground. Everything is going to be reduced as far as runoff, and there is additional storage that's going to be on site that will help reduce the runoff of this property also.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Troy, I got a couple of questions for you. So, my name's Joel Aarons. This is my area that I represent, so I take a particular interest in it, of course, and I hear from a lot of folks about these kinds of issues. And I go to all these township meetings, and they talk about their concerns, and so they're not here tonight. So somebody's at least got to answer these, pose the questions, if you will. So first question I've got here on behalf of Mark Shesher, and I know Mark, he's on the township board there for Springdale Township. He says the following: he was told yesterday that this site, and his email is dated October 22nd, so apparently yesterday, he was told that the site includes an event center with at least 40 parking spaces. Is that true or false?
There is a riding arena, but not an event center. And there is parking provided, but it's for employees, and it was a sketch plan put together showing parking for that area.
Okay. So, and is it true that you all agree with this condition, that there shouldn't be any, you will agree not to host any events that are not in relation to the stabled animals out there?
That would be the owner, but I believe that is the case.
Yes, we're willing to agree.
Come on up to the mic, sir, so that we can, just please state your name.
Brad Hanson, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yes, we are willing to agree to that.
Thank you.
The next question that Mr. Shesher has here, and this is a pretty common thing we hear from townships, of course, is they are in the business of regulating culverts out underneath driveways and these township roads and whatnot. Mark says in his email here that he says, we also want to note that the driveway to get into this site shall have a minimum of a 24-inch culvert. Do you want to address that concern?
Are we talking about to the riding arena? I have not seen the email, so I'm,
And I give you a copy of it here if you want to. I'm not.
if it's to
not
the
trying
riding arena,
ambush you.
the
Yeah.
driveway approach is at the high point of that property, and it splits and drains to the north and to the south. I don't remember the township board member that lives to the south, but he was concerned that we'd be pushing more water to the south, so there was no culvert being placed at that point.
Yeah, and obviously we take particular interest in those kinds of things because the guy downstream says you're going to put more water on me, and the guy upstream likes to say, well, you're going to push it on, you're going to pool it on me.
Exactly.
And so basically, are you telling me what kind of size of culvert have you got in there?
At the arena or the stable location, there is no culvert, but at their home, there is a 24-inch culvert that was placed at that location at the request of the township.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. At this particular time, I'm going to go ahead and ask the public if they would like to speak on this item. I'll allow 5 minutes for each one, and if it becomes redundant, I'll probably shut you off. But nevertheless, I guess, is there anyone who would like to speak on this particular matter? Please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Doreen Gard. I live at 5101 West 38th Street in Sioux Falls. We are the owners of the property that's to the south of the proposed stable. And we've owned that for 3 generations, just for a little background. We are here today to appeal as we were not aware of the stable proposed due to the limited visibility with only the posting of the property that was there for 7 days before the planning meeting. We had been going by there multiple times, never saw it, even when we were out there. So unfortunately, we were not able to attend the meeting because we did not know about it. So that's why we're in appeal now. The issue is fitting in the Sioux Falls Lincoln Growth Plan and limiting future land use with this intended use property values could be a concern. As we have learned, the intended use of this stable is for the animal shelter rescue, which events of groups of people visiting the stable from representatives of the stable. Intended use was not transparent or in the written proposal to planning commissioners. The proposed written application is for a sanctuary. No events, no groups were mentioned, with only just a few employees and volunteers on site. Like you were saying earlier, there are 40 parking spots in that plan. We don't quite understand why they need that if they aren't going to host some things that need that many parking spots. Sioux Falls Planning Commission stated, as you said, no events, no special events. Sanctuary and animal shelter rescue have different functionalities. Sanctuary animals come there to live out the rest of their life. Animal shelters rescue, rehabilitate the animals, and adopt them. Recently, a kennel was proposed on the same site, and in that written proposal, use was to be an animal shelter. Intended use of the stable has the same function as kennel to be used as animal shelter rescue, difference being horses now. The Planning Commission voted down the kennel as an animal shelter was not in the growth plan for the Sioux Falls, limiting future land use, shelter not allowed within the A1 zoning of this land. Infrastructure is not in place to accommodate operation, no sewer, water, roads. Not in the plans for 15 years, as was said. This site is located at 85th and Sycamore. The same issues with growth plan, zoning, and infrastructure exist with this proposal as well. As an example, currently, there is a well on the site, as he said, and not a septic tank at this time. Visiting groups, there could be a lot more than what they're saying. We are not sure, things are not clear to us. So with this well and the water and the septic and the use by the employees and the animal care, engineering firm did not present plans to show if water well and septic can accommodate this use. They say, well, they think it will, but have they had an actual study of it? I haven't seen it. Stable operation is larger than proposed kennel, which got voted down. Roads are gravel, not paved. It's a problem. During the kennel meeting, commissioners mentioned stable concern, they mentioned stable concerns now about knowing what the actual intended use of the stable operation, questioning the initial approval with information provided. They only were provided so much information, in other words. The use of the land was only going to be a few horses and a stable, and the rest of it was going to be pasture land. There could be, as was told to us earlier, there could be a lot more horses than that. They could actually have up to 499 if they actually wanted to.
Ma'am, you have 1 more minute.
Okay. The animal shelter does not fit into the growth plan, limits the future use of the lands in the area. The stable as an animal shelter rescue should not be approved based on the information now known. If commission does approve the stable as written and proposed, and the conditions needed, we need to be able to write conditions into this so that we are protected. And it's also the people in the neighboring surrounding neighbors. Protection such as limits of horses, animal shelter events, limiting visitors, noise codes, odor, water, pollution, and manure, and fence cost. Now, I am finished. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak?
My name is James Gard, 5101 West 38th Street, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Our concern is the change to the water water runoff to our property. We received the drainage maps Monday afternoon, 10/21, in the afternoon, in the mail. Ideally, we would have another engineer analyze the maps, but time-wise, we did not have a chance. So we will do our best to prove to the maps and pictures that we are not overstating our concerns. During the phone call from the attorney on 10/18, he stated that all the water would flow north, and the ground would also absorb water. But the maps received Monday afternoon in the mail by us show different flow directions. Do you have the flow? Do you have the flow maps in your packet?
Yeah. Carter,
Or do you want me to put them on the projector?
can he put that up on the screen for us? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I'll start with the, here. Based on their layout on here, the foot levels that shows all through the property, the 1,400 different numbers, that's the same, and this is the proposed sheet. They're incomplete because they did not show the actual height level of the land after all the dirt was moved or will be moved on the projection sheet. The height levels shown are the original dirt soil levels. The projected water flow on the dividing lines that they've made on this projection does not appear to be based on the new soil or dirt level heights, because all the numbers on there are all the original levels, which is confirmed on the other sheet which is the existing drain analysis. Per the maps presented to us, the original projected acres from their calculations to a runoff to our land was 36.5 acres, and the new projection is now 37.7 acres. But the east one-third of this 80-acre plot is 3 to 5 feet higher than original. Packed clay does not absorb water like the original farm ground soil, so more water will be coming our way. The highest ground level on the projected proposal has been moved 1/4 of the halfway mark, north and south, up to from the center of the original highest level, possibly sending more runoff water to the additional hard-hit areas. So here's the original plan. The highest level is right in the middle, on the north-south line. On the new projected level, it is moved up quarter way up, so it's quite a bit, another quarter way up the road to the north. So that's got more ground that's going to be running off into our property. Also, based on the maps, I outlined the layout of the original ground that they had projected that was flowing onto our property. And that is,
Sir, I'll give you one more minute.
okay, I'll be done. Is this projection here? That's the original one that they say the original projection flow in our property. Now, it goes this much higher up in here, another farther north, so we get that much more running come to us, and it goes farther east. The east portion has been removed. But, like I said earlier, the east one-third of the 80 is packed clay, which is now 3 to 5 foot taller. So there's no ground absorption there. That means very possibly getting more water to us in the south.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I got one left.
Thank you very much.
Am I done?
You're done,
I
yes.
have one more thing to do.
Are there any other members present who would like to speak on this?
Matt Guard, 1504 South Aberdeen Avenue in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Can you hear me? I'm just going to go over some additional conditions of use. If this is approved, we need to get some of these down. These are following the written proposal application, zoning, and there's some protections that we're concerned about. This was, number one, to be used as equine sanctuary only, a sanctuary defined as a forever home for equine once the animal is on the property. Limit to 15 horses on site. Veterinary clinics, hospitals, and animal shelters / rescues are specifically excluded. Not to be used for animal shelter rescue as a temporary location to rehabilitate and adopt equines.
Sir, would you like to move your paper over a little bit so it's visible for everybody?
Okay,
There, thank you.
if I need to move. And also, the land principal used to agricultural with the limit number of employees, volunteers associated with the stable. There shall be no events with external large groups visiting the stable. I would say the events limited to 10, no special events such as fundraising for the foundation. When the lawyer called us, they said that there could be large Girl Scout groups visiting this site, as an example. The noise, there is no noise ordinance in the code currently, so we propose to meet the Sioux Falls Code and regulations, adapting to future residential if developed next to the stable. There should be no emission of dust, fumes, vapors, odors, which can be seen, smelled, otherwise perceived from beyond the lot line from where the stable is operating to protect from odors from the operation. This is also addressing the water flow that was just discussed. So water flow to neighboring lands should not increase from previous agricultural use due to restructuring and elevation changes of the land. Owner of the land and stable is responsible to mitigate increased water flow and/or contamination of surface and groundwater due to redevelopment and use of the land. Neighboring lands not responsible for fence installation costs and maintenance of the fence. Septic system shall be a treated, filtered system not to pollute the environment, groundwater, and surface water, cause offensive odor. If a drain field is used in the septic system, the drain field not to run off to the southeast into neighboring lands. Manure management in the facility and pasture not to cause nuisance and offensive odor. Manure management in the facility and pasture not to pollute the environment, ground, and surface water. Manure management not to cause development of flies and other insects and rodents, to be removed within less than a 7-day cycle. Manure to be stored and covered to keep dry, visually screening in a remote location with runoff not into neighboring property or surface water, and to be treated. Not located in paddocks, pasture, with flooring to be designed to minimize groundwater pollution. Exercise and paddock arenas to be located in higher ground with provisions to cleaning the area for manure and decreased runoff potential. If manure allowed to decompose, manure to be an aerobic decomposition or similar, not to cause nuisance and offensive odor. Ideally, manure storage solutions downwind of residents and adjustments to future residents in this growth area. And also install flooring to be designed to minimize the groundwater pollution. Mainly here, we have a lot of concerns about the pollution and the environment, but the use of this, as in the proposal, it is proposed for a sanctuary only. And the zoning, as stated earlier, does not allow animal shelters to be used. So that should be included in this conditions of use. And as stated, they talk about events, and there's some misrepresentation there. And when the lawyer calls us and gives us that information. But that's what I had to share for right now.
Right, thank you. Any other members of the public?
Brad Hanson, 5500 South Lazy Ridge Place, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You know, I'm really disappointed that we even started this whole project the way this has turned out. When we got started looking for a place, we formed a 501c3 nonprofit organization to try and do something good for the city, to try and help animals that are suffering at the Humane Society. They're overloaded. They can't keep up with them. They aren't built to be able to provide long-term care for animals, and we thought we could help. So we formed the 501c3. I donated money personally to the 501c3 so it could buy this land. Before we bought the land, I went and had checked with the city and the county, who said it sounded like a worthwhile project and that the land was zoned so that we would be able to do this. That we would have to go through a process, but it was a very doable process. We spent millions of dollars to buy this land, and now it's worthless to us and to our 501c3 nonprofit organization, who doesn't have the money to go somewhere else now because we can't even sell the land because you can't use it. So we're building our houses out there. We're the closest ones there. We're spending millions of dollars on those, millions of dollars on all this. Our whole goal was to build a place that people could come that was more park-like, that we were going to build trails and parks and people could walk their dogs. Like we have dog parks in the middle of the city. Who would think that this was going to be such a controversial issue? Now we've tried to be very cooperative. We changed our lots multiple times to meet the requirements of city. Unfathomable to me is that rural water has an easement right across our property, about 50 feet from our front door, and we can't use it. So we have to now we had to dig a well and other things like that. So a lot of additional expense to do those kinds of things to accommodate the requirements of the city in this. I've never really been given any reasons, except that it doesn't meet the long-term plans. Nobody's told me what the long-term plans even are. I have tried to accommodate every requirement. We backed off of every other requirement that we intentionally planned. We moved our clinic into the city limits and bought commercial land there so that we could build the clinic there to accommodate that. Now we're down to a horse stables and a riding arena to keep long-term, care of animals. We've agreed not to hold events. We've agreed to all those requirements. And now we're just asking, can we just get on with the last piece, build our stable, have the 15 horses that we plan to have, that we plan to help. There's cows right to the north of us in those lands, and they're not causing problems with anything. I don't know why 15 horses are going to cause a problem on 80 acres. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Are there any questions now after we've heard some, I guess, deliberation from our public that we would have maybe for Mr. Brown or some of the others from the Sioux Falls?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toby, I have a question, and I apologize for my ignorance on this. Is there any manure handling ordinances in Lincoln County that we need to be concerned about?
Not within the joint zoning regulations, no.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Toby, just stay right there. If the appeal was, what could be done there today with no conditional use permit? What could be allowed there today in regards to livestock?
No livestock would be permitted on that facility. In the joint zoning regulations, livestock are not allowed on properties. So this is the only mechanism that they can facilitate the horses on the property.
And what's the allowable usage if approved? We've heard the intended usage, but what's the allowable usage?
As far as the number?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no number limit on it, other than if it got to a state threshold that they'd have to get a state permit for it, but that's not what they're proposing, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Toby or
I-
anyone
Mr.
else?
Chair,
Yes.
Brian, the first thing that came to my mind is no good deed goes unpunished. I listened to a lot of the concerns. One, a septic isn't just you put it in the ground, you have to get it state approved, so it meets all the regulations and rules and regulations, so that there is no runoff, there is nothing that has to be approved, so it's there. The other one is manure management they talked about. I don't know if anybody realizes, 15 horses, I mean, you're gonna have quite a while to, how do we say that? Nutrient management, I don't think is gonna be a problem with 15 horses. I just don't. I've raised lots of livestock myself, and I don't see that. And you have, the other issue was, this was a refuge for rehabilitating animals, okay? I can't see anything wrong with trying to rehabilitate an animal to put it back into some use or riding purposes. So I looked at your statement that you provided from your attorney, Bryce Law Firm, and I think, in my mind, you pretty well addressed a lot of those particular concerns and issues. So I'm going to be voting for you on this thing. I just want to tell you that right up front.
Toby, is runoff at all a concern? Some of the things that we've heard tonight?
Not with an open lot like this, no. Not from staff's perspective, but, yeah.
Toby, or maybe this question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go
My
ahead.
apologies. May I?
Yes.
I noticed in the Boyce memo here, a couple different questions, Mr. Hanson. What Paul Cheddar says is that there is plans for internal water retention facilities. What does that mean and what are they?
Let's pull it up. To show to him. Show the picture.
So the internal water retention is a retention pond that was dug in this area as a borrow area for the clay that was for the foundation of the barns and this area on this side. That area right there is approximately 4.65 acres of pondage, and that is the retention on site.
Okay.
So there was no additional requirements to that, but we have a 4.65 acre pond.
And I take it you'd agree to that being part of the terms and conditions here? That
As far as
we could
which conditions?
Would you agree that in order to get what you want tonight, we can put in there in the terms and conditions, you'd agree that you got to install the retention pond?
Yep,
Okay.
because it's already dug.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Next question. A lot of discussion about the number of animals. 500 animals on 80 acres might be a challenge, right? If that were to ever happen, because you're going to have the city of Sioux Falls coming out and swallowing you up at some point in time. So 500 animals could be a challenge. Do you all, you made a big deal tonight about this 15 animals or whatever it's going to be. Will you agree to the terms and conditions of getting a conditional use permit to cap that amount? And if so, what would you agree to cap the number of animals at?
The conditional use permit that was approved by the city and the county already had a condition limiting us to 15 animals. So that's what we've agreed to, and I guess that's where we plan to comply with the requirements of the permit. I don't know how else to answer it.
Well, if you turn with me to the conditions of approval, there's 8 line itemed conditions. And in there, at least the report I'm looking at, this is the report from staff. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm looking at an old copy, but I'm looking at the report from staff. And I'm just wondering if you could point out to me where it says the number 15 at.
Well, I don't see it here, and I apologize if I misstated. I was going off what I thought he said, that the conditional use permit was for 15 animals. Maybe he was asking for an additional condition, I'm not sure.
He's mistaken too. I think everybody's mistaken. I appreciate the fact that you all publicly are willing to cap it. I just want to make sure you're okay with us if we were to approve it. You're okay with 15 animals being the cap?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If that's what it requires, yes.
I'm just asking you, because there's a big difference.
It's not what I prefer, it's what I would agree to if
No,
that's
absolutely,
necessary.
I understand, and I'm not trying to horse trade with you. I think the point I'm trying to get at is, there's a big difference between 500 animals and 15.
Well, it would
And-
never be 500.
Right,
That's-
and so I'm trying to facilitate that discussion here of what your tolerance level is, so that we can get closer towards trying to get this thing resolved.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question
Yes,
for
go
Mr.
ahead.
Brown, if he'll come
Were you
up.
done, Commissioner Ernst, or not? Excuse me.
We'll go ahead for now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go
Thank
ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner Landine.
The CUP is required because of where it is located, correct? It's within the joint jurisdictional area.
Yes.
They would not otherwise need a CUP, correct?
In the joint area?
Just if it was just in the rural area of Lincoln County and it wasn't within the joint jurisdictional area.
Yeah, even in the non-joint jurisdictional area, we require a conditional use permit for a stable.
Okay, so is there any situation where they would be able to even have that many animals, this parade of horribles that they're gonna, have that many animals on the property?
It's hard to judge on this. I think from a staff perspective, we didn't want to put a threshold on here because you're setting a precedence on the next ones that we should establish that as the number.
Okay.
And really, it's limited, to me, it's limited by the stalls and that, and there's no way they could get to 500 on
Sure.
this property.
All right, thank you for that. That was my only question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
with all due respect to the maximum number. I'm not uncomfortable with the fact that if you are taking refuge, taking animals, horses in this case, and you have 15, and there exists a situation where there is somewhat of a issue, a fire, or an accident or something, which would require that you, for a temporary period of time, may have to increase the 15 to 20, 25, even at that. But that's not a permanent issue. But if we cap you at 15, you would be unable to take any additional situations that may occur. So I'm hard pressed to say, giving you some latitude that you would agree that 15 would be your maximum that you would use, but with the ability to accommodate additional animals up to a certain point. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't like to say that you, at 15, you have to turn everything away. And I don't think we're opening the door to any huge number of animals. I listened to what your game plan was, and that certainly is, you're not going into commercial production. You're taking care of animals who are in need of a help, so, yeah.
Yeah, our initial goal for the whole thing was to only take overflow from the Humane Society. So they have animals, for example, dogs, if they're there for 20 days, I think it is, then they're scheduled to be euthanized because they start to go insane in the environment they are. So we could take those animals that are having a harder time getting adopted. There wouldn't be that many. We had, I think, a maximum of like 20 or something like that. We were never trying to abuse anything, or obviously we want to, are making a significant investment to have a great environment, but there's already other places in town. I mean, Rugged Cross has about 40 horses on its land on about 20 acres in city on the 10th and, Arrowhead Parkway and the new Veterans Parkway, right? So, there's already a precedent for having more than 15. But as I said, I'm trying to be cooperative and just do whatever makes the most people happy. I know I can't make everybody happy, but, do something and do something good. So if there's some flexibility in that for those kinds of situations, that's awesome. But, we're not trying to do anything that's going to detract from any property. We don't want to live next to any property that's, being detracted from in any negative way. So, appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve, were you done, Commissioner Aaron's? Did you have any further?
No, I'm fine, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
fine,
Thank you.
okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess then, at this particular time, I would ask the commission for a motion to approve this item.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to uphold the county planning and zoning's approval and recommendation with the conditions that they approved.
Okay, we heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Landine and a second by Schmidt. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
thank you. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Appreciate the petitioner's efforts tonight, and I appreciate the neighbors who already live there coming out tonight to express their concerns. At the end of the day, private property rights matter. And the reason we got to do these uncomfortable meetings is because we got to balance the rights of the private property owner, in this instance the petitioner who spent a lot of money, with the rights of the neighbors. I think the neighbors, to your credit, you've listed out what I believe to be a couple legitimate concerns. Of those, what I would probably side with you on is the number of animals. And I think Commissioner Schmidt makes a good point. He's like, I don't want to limit you. Okay. And I appreciate that, because he brings up a good point. What if there's an emergent situation or something like that? But at the same time, if you all say that you're not going to have 500 head out there, we ought to be able to put a cap in there. And I think that's reasonable public policy. That way, people in the neighborhood can be assured that you're not only willing to make a promise, but you're willing to hold your feet to the fire by force of law, i.e. the conditional use permit. And I think the drainage issue is legitimate as well, because we here down at the county, we're hearing about drainage issues all the time. Now, what I would say to the neighbors is, they've taken pretty significant steps to rectify that. They installed a 4-acre pond as a retention pond. And so I would hope that you all would appreciate the fact that they're willing to take up some of their land, which could be used for other things, to act as a drainage retention pond when, you know, the law doesn't even require them to do that. The reason I can't support the motion, though, is this notion of a cap, or the idea of a cap. I get the whole fact about setting a precedent, but, you know, when this is an issue of first impression, somebody's got to blaze the trail. And sometimes you just got to say, look, we need some common sense here. We need to respect private property owners, we've got to respect the neighbors, and we've got to create some kind of workable policy that people in the joint jurisdictional area can respect. And I think the petitioners are being very respectful of the neighbors by at least telling you that they would agree to 15. And I don't believe there will be 500 head out there. I don't even believe there's going to be 100 head out there. But I wish my fellow county commissioners would agree to that. And I understand that I respect their votes too. But so with that, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know if I'll have any support for this, but I want to make a motion to amend the motion on the table. And that is to say that there can't be more than 50 animals out there at a time. That would be my only amendment. So that's my motion, that's my amendment. I don't know if I'll get a second or not.
Okay. Commissioner Aaron's has stated that he would like an amendment to this. Is there any support for it? I guess I'm asking for a second.
I have a question. Commissioner Aaron's, you're saying that you would not allow more than 50 at any one time.
That's correct, Commissioner Schmidt.
Okay. So while they may agree to the 15, you are allowing a cap, so to speak, at 50, which gives them the discretion to utilize, like I was mentioning, a situation where the Humane Society had an abundance of horses and they needed to go someplace and there were another 15 that were available. You could accommodate all of them then, correct? Is that right?
That's correct, Commissioner Schmidt.
Okay.
I think in an look, I trust these people.
Yep.
I hope they'll act with integrity. They have thus far. And I would hope they don't take that cap to mean that that is permission to bring that many animals out there, because they've already told us they only want 15. But it would at least allow for an emergent situation where, you know, they take overflow.
Okay, he has submitted a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
Well, on your amendment, or I'll support that. And we'll have to vote on the amendment before we vote on the bill. So we'll see whether we get enough votes to support that, Commissioner Aaron's.
So Commissioner Aaron's has submitted an amendment to the motion, and Commissioner Schmidt has seconded. So I guess the first thing we need to do is vote on the amendment. So Alicia, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
No.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carries for the amendment. Now, the motion. We had a motion by Landine and a second by Schmidt. Call the roll for that, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes, motion carried. 4-0. The first one was 3-1 for the amendment. All right,
Okay, I'm going to try and run this down for the council. Council, we can vote on the original, if I get this right, we can vote on the original approval of the conditional use permit. I'll need a motion to approve and a second before we can vote.
Move to approve, Spellerbird.
Second, McCourse.
Any discussion? Council Baraco.
Mr. Chairman, do we have the prerogative and should we consider amending so that our action is consistent with the action just taken by Licking County?
You have the prerogative to make that amendment. And if we don't amend and we approve the original conditional use permit, I'll have to bow to the parliamentarian on what would happen at that point. Toby, anybody? Then it fails. The whole thing fails. And they'll have to come.
Okay, well,
So let me ask again. The appeal fails and the conditional use permit is permitted,
No,
or the whole thing fails?
the whole thing fails.
Council discussion. Council Cole.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like this puts us in a really difficult position because I think I don't have numbers to back up 50. I mean, what if it happens to be 53? I just feel like we're just pulling randomly and we don't have any sort of precedent for these conditional use permits on the actual acreage. So like I'm going to support this conditional use permit, but I will not support the limit to 50 horses. So I just, yeah, it's a tough spot for us to be in tonight.
Council Bronco.
completely respect those comments, but what I'm hearing, and forgive me for not understanding the system as I should, I'm hearing that if we don't also amend and add the limit, then we would have inconsistent judgments, and that would result in the failure of the project. So I guess we are in a difficult situation, but we're kind of, by the rules, required to make, if we want this to be approved, we have to be consistent with the town.
Can I ask another question of the parliamentarian? If the city council approves the original conditional use permit without the amendment to do 50, does the county commission have the ability to reconsider their vote at this meeting?
Yeah, it'd have to be a motion to withdraw the previous decision.
Drew, do you want to come up here just so that the public hears this, please?
Yeah, there would have to be a motion to withdraw that previous decision by the county commission, but they could then entertain another motion if they do that.
What is the timetable for them to do that? Is it at this meeting or is it at their next meeting?
Can we, Mr. Councilman,
Yeah.
can we hand it back to the county for some further discussion? Because this should not fail because of a bunch of political posturing.
We're done.
We got a motion on that.
Yeah, they have the floor
Right.
right now, so.
Councilman Garris.
Mr. Chairman, it feels like we're just throwing darts at a dartboard here with no logical reasoning. Why in the Sioux Falls Master Plan, which is our job to look through the lens of the Sioux Falls Growth Plan, in the Sioux Falls Growth Plan, why does a stable of 50 work, but a dog kennel of 20 doesn't work? I mean, there's no consistency in my perspective of where we're at. The Humane Society doesn't take horses, do they? So how did that come into play that we've got the Humane Society with an overflow of horses coming here? I don't understand how we got here. I agree that the conditional use permit should be upheld. There should be a conditional use permit here, but I think we need to be consistent with how we're applying the growth plan. I don't think we're being consistent in the application of the growth plan.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
My vote was, to me, we're wandering away from something. I had originally thought that the 15 was fine, which is in your original conditional use permit. But allowing up to, and Commissioner Aaron's pulled a number of 50 out. Well, I don't think you're intending to put 50 horses out there at all. That was merely allowing them to go above and beyond the 15 if they needed to at some point in time. But what we're hearing, interpreting, is suddenly now that they're going to put 50 horses out there. That's not part of what the plan was, or not for my vote, because I think this thing should move forward. So if someone can find a way to wander out of this thing, I still like the idea of giving you the discretion of having more than 15 if you need to. But you've agreed to have 15 kind of on as your basis, and that's what I'm thinking you will run. So I understand everybody's point, but that's my point with, in voting for that. So.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the way out of this is to approve and uphold the planning commission's decision with no cap on the number.
Okay.
That's the way out of here from my perspective, is that's what's before us. This cap thing has come in there is no 15 in the cap. That's been an idea that's been out here, and we don't improve intention as a governing body. We approve what's allowed in the written zoning stuff. So 15 can be hard intention all day long. I don't mean anything negative by this statement. I'm not improving intention tonight. I'm improving what's allowed in the code book. I believe the decision should be upheld, which means they can have whatever the zoning regulations allow them to have. 1550, that's not in the books anywhere. So I believe we should uphold the planning commission's decision and allow it to move forward, and I would encourage the county to reconsider their early motion to match that.
And I will say that I'm going to ask for that. I don't know on your end. I mean, there's motions on the table. If those motions get withdrawn, if you can hand it back over to us to get our side of it figured out. It's just a thought.
If the city council has a motion on the books,
Correct.
or on the table, that we have to vote on our motion. If we vote on our motion, then the county has a chance to reconsider. And I would say that might be our path forward. Then you can rediscuss. Let us lay our cards on the table, palm up, and then you guys can do that. So with that said, any other discussion by the city council? At this time, we will vote to uphold the conditional use permit done by the planning zone. So can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yeah. Councilor Thomason?
Yes.
Barranco?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
McCurs?
Yes.
Siggety?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes,
Spellerberg? Yes.
that has passed the city council vote 7-0.
Thank you. I guess at this particular time,
I'd like to make a motion for us to reconsider our earlier decision to uphold with the 8 conditions that were approved by our Planning and Zoning Commission.
In order to move this thing forward and get this thing taken care of, I will second that motion.
okay, I guess we have a motion by Landine and a second by Schmidt. Is there any discussion?
It's just a motion to allow us to reconsider it, so if we can vote on that, and then we can bring another affirmative motion or however it
Yep.
plays out,
Okay,
right?
Should be an affirmative motion to withdraw if you want to take further action instead of reconsider.
Okay, well then, motion to withdraw our earlier decision. That would be my motion.
okay.
And a second.
Just so that we're all aware of what we're voting on, the motion is to withdraw, what again?
Our earlier decision.
Our earlier decision. All right, and that is by Commissioner Landine and a second by Schmidt. Any discussion? Okay, Alicia, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
No.
Landine,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes, keep it moving here.
Then I would move to uphold the motion or the recommendation and approval that our planning and zoning made for us.
Okay, we have a motion by Landine. Is there a second?
I will second that with a discussion or with a clarification from Councilman McCorrick on what our duty or intent is.
This would be upholding the planning
Yes.
commission's recommendations with the.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Landine and a second by Schmidt. Is there any discussion?
Well, we want to get this thing done tonight. I mean, seriously, we can sit here and argue all night, but these folks have paid a high price. They need to have an answer so they can move forward. So that's why I'm voting to get this thing done. Call the question.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Good public policy requires trade-offs and balances. You heard the petitioner tonight. They said they'd agree to 15, they'd agree to a cap. I take them at their word. But at the same time, we have to remember, in terms of planning and zoning, the city's going to grow up around this. And it would be nice for these neighbors right here, as well as the rest of the potential future neighbors, to hold their feet to the fire with the force of law. And otherwise, they're allowed to have an unlimited number of animals out there. Now, will that happen? I doubt it. Because I think they want to run a very nice facility. But, and I would hope they would want to develop a relationship of trust with the neighbors. But at the same time, for my city council brothers and sisters, you ask, where does the number come from? Well, it's not as if it comes from some scientific study, okay? 50 comes from growing up on a farm and raising horses on 160 acres and using common sense, wisdom, and experience. And wisdom and experience sometimes is in short supply when it comes to government meetings like this. But when you put 500 horses on 80 acres, you're going to have a problem. You just are. You're going to keep 15 to 20 horses out there on 80 acres, you're going to have a real nice spread. And so the number 50 is just intended to keep everybody honest and to keep a real nice and to create an accommodation that will allow them to be able to use their private property and to allow these neighbors to feel as if the promises that have been made here are going to be kept. Because you want to know something? People come in to this board all the time and make promises, and they break them. And it's not as if you can have a breach of contract case against them when they tell you this. You got to pass it in the ordinance. You got to have the law has to say so. And if the law doesn't say so, it allows for unregulated use. So that's where I'm coming from. It's called a balance between the neighbors and the landowner. And that's what we're trying to do here tonight. So for that reason, I'm a no vote, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, I guess call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's?
No.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried, 3-1. I guess at this particular time, is there any public comment? Comment is limited to 5 minutes. On non-agenda items. I guess seeing none, I guess we will go ahead and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Schmidt, seconded by Landine. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried.
Council, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Siggety.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. We are adjourned. Thank
We're
you.
adjourned.